Hey folks, what's going on? It's Bo Wills. I'm here at iconic Red Bar in Grayton Beach to announce the launch of my new podcast, What's the Big Idea with Bo Wills. My first episode is with Tim Norris. He is seat 2 on the South Walton Mosquito Control Board. There's an election for 3 seats coming up in November. I didn't know much about the South Walton Mosquito Control Board, and I asked Tim to come in and tell me what's the big idea with the South Walton Mosquito Control Board. Check it out. Well, Tim, thanks for coming in. Congratulations, you are my first guest on my new podcast that doesn't have a name yet. So if you think of any cool names while we're sitting here talking, give me some suggestions, because right now it doesn't have a name. It's just the podcast, all right?
Thank you, Bo.
All right. You know, I live here in Walton County,
right?
And we just had an election, and we're about to have another election
right.
for a couple of county commissioners and a mosquito seats on the mosquito board.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to thinking, I don't know anything about the mosquito board. You know, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama, and I remember we had trucks that fumigated the neighborhoods and didn't really pay much attention to it, other than I never grew a third eye or anything like that. So when I got down here, it's a little bit more face fronting the role that the mosquito board plays. It's an important role in the county. And I wanted to, you're on seat 2,
right? And
I wanted to ask you some questions, or just, you know, dumb it down for me. What does the mosquito board do?
Well, our main mission and objective is to basically kill mosquitoes, vociferous insects that have the potential of carrying diseases, and that's our mission. And as you know, with our tourist development here in the area, the tourism is substantial to our revenues and our income for our businesses and our community. And you know, one disease could wipe out a lot of income for our business and our community.
Okay, well that's pretty self-explanatory then. The mosquito board, they control mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But I've got some questions I want to just sort of guide our conversation with. But before I get to those, let me just ask you about you. Where are you from originally?
I'm from this area, basically. Grew up in Fort Walton Beach. My dad was in the military, Air Force.
Okay.
And so from there, you know, went to school at Choctachi High School. Back then, it was at Northwest Florida State College, was called OWJC, Okaloosa Walton Junior College.
I see.
And then I went to FSU, and from there became a flight attendant with Eastern Airlines, and had a good time traveling around the world.
All right.
You know, enjoyed life at that point in time, and it was a lot of fun. But then eventually came back and got into real estate. And so I was licensed back in 1986.
Okay.
So, but off and on, you know, in and out in the real estate business, there have been it's cyclical, you know, it's cycle with.
Tell me about it,
with
right?
all that over the years and decades, for that matter. But anyway, ended up.
Where did you start real estate?
I started at Sandestin.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was my first year when I got my license. Was selling at Sandestin back when no one was out here. And so it was kind of like, it was a long drive from Fort Walton Beach out to Sandestin, and there was nothing out there.
Right, if we had any idea of how the area was going to grow. And
oh, if I knew then what I know now, you know.
Right, I guess that's
done
easy
well.
to say.
Yeah, that's the old saying.
So I know, you know, I'm a real estate agent too, and so
Right.
that's how we know one another initially. And as I've gotten to know you, I know that you serve on boards. You've had a lot of public service in the past. Can you give us a quick summary of your public service that led you up to seat 2 at the mosquito board?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I have served on I serve on the Choctachi Basin Alliance on their advisory board. I've done that for probably over 10 years now. I was appointed to the Northwest Florida Water Management District by the governor back in 2006 and 7. And anyway, did a stint there for 4 years. And actually, that's where I learned a little bit more about, you know, water management and how important that is to a community, and much less to the Panhandle, much less to, you know, to everyone. But sat on that board, advisory on that board, and then let's see, Choctachi Basin Alliance, also on the TDC board former chairman of the Republican Party, currently committeeman for Walton County for the Republican Party of Florida. And I've sat on, and then I'm commissioner for seat 2 for Mosquito Control District, South Walton Mosquito Control District. So, and there's a few more. I just can't remember them all. But you just get involved. Like a lot of times you get involved in, let's say, like real estate, and you have a community that you live in. I was on the ARB for Gulf Place for a while, and the HOA on the board there.
Especially as realtors, we got to figure out a way to contribute
to give
to the
back.
community.
Yeah, to
absolutely.
the community, and help kind of guide and direct with the knowledge that you have from other things that you are part of. It can help give them information to help make decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I want to do this, is bring people in that can explain things that, maybe gets tossed around on social media or through the grapevine.
Absolutely.
And the clearest picture doesn't, come out of that conversation sometimes.
Yeah, we need that very much.
So I asked for your input on things that you wanted to talk about, and I have my some input as well. But I'm just going to kind of go down this list, and we can talk about things as they come up.
Sure.
The PR person, and she had a 10% raise. Do you want to talk about that?
A little bit on that. That is a position that we approved a while back, and what that does. The 10% raise, to answer that question first, is there's other districts. We're in a special district, so that's the fire districts, the mosquito districts, stormwater districts. There's 1,600 different districts throughout Florida. Okay. So those districts have different people in different positions, and so we gathered some information. We had originally hired that person. That person performed very well, and so at that point in time, we figured we'd bring them up to the level that is competitive. So if these people are good, you know how it is these days. If you have a good employee, you don't want to lose them because the word gets out and somebody else wants them, or they're more attracted to the higher wage, higher salary, and you lose a good person. You got to start all over again. So it costs more to continually hire people in a lot of ways. But anyway, that's the reason we brought her up to the
So you felt like when she initially came on board, she was under the level of what a PR person might make in these districts.
Correct.
She performed well. She deserves a raise to meet the salaries of comparable districts.
The dedication's there. And her job description isn't really just PR.
Right. That was kind of my question, is what does the mosquito board need a PR person for? And I'd say that with complete ignorance of why it might be important.
It sounds kind of crazy, but it's not really. It's the person that does, puts out this, information on social media, information on our website. That person is taking care of a lot of our IT stuff. We don't have anybody to do that. And as we continue to grow, and as you know, our population has grown substantially over the last 10 years, for that matter, much less. I heard a prediction yesterday, or my understanding is an additional 30,000 in the next 5 years.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. So, but you put that person in there, so what does that do? That increases the number of schools, which this person is not just in charge of the PR part of the web, the social media, the IT,
so she's conduit for communications from the mosquito board to
and
the general public.
And she's now the education person also that takes our program to the classes in the elementary schools. So from kindergarten to third grade, we have classes that this person goes and does a mosquito education program to. The kids love it.
Right.
The parents, you see them out and about, they'll tell you about, hey, my son went to, was telling me all about mosquito control and wanted to make sure that he dumped out the water out of the tub out in the backyard or something like that. So that's what this person does. This year alone, we had I think it was 80 or 85 classes that had signed up. Now this person, that used to be our office manager and one of our techs. Well, we need them for other job duties right now.
Right.
They're overwhelmed with everything that they have going on. So this person is doing that, and it's important because the community is very receptive to this education program. And that's what she does, and has done a very good job. Except this year, COVID came about, and that we had to kind of cancel that.
Had to readjust.
And it takes quite a few months to prepare.
Right.
And then middle schools also want to get involved. So we have.
So she's kind of coordinating all those efforts.
Absolutely. And she's also coordinating education programs and certification programs from our facility. Matter of fact, before COVID, we were getting ready to have a certification program.
And this is for the in-house techs, or?
This is for all the techs in the state of Florida.
I got you.
All around the country, all around the world. As a matter of fact, we were going to do it on the Zoom, and it was that was canceled. But we had 2 applicants for certification from international markets. One was from India, and I forget what the other one was.
Wow, so I didn't realize that we were educating literally the whole world about mosquito control.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
something new
These
today.
guys are wanting to get, they need to get certified, they got to keep up their license, and so we now have become an education facility for the world.
Same question with the office manager. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like it's a growing department and duties are piling
A
up.
lot of responsibility for that particular person, yes. And that's, same thing. We bring them in at a certain level and to, to give them the right
Yeah, I mean, they're
salary.
not on, it's not a probationary period, but I mean, you're evaluating their performance and yeah, it's like any good business
Absolutely.
would. Yeah.
That's how we did it, yeah.
So I see a question here about an increase of budget by 352% over 6 years.
Well,
That sounds bad.
that sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not necessarily the budget. The millage rate has only been changed twice since I've been here, and this makes 8 years. But what that means is that you and I have experienced part of this, and we've sold a lot of properties. And when you sell a lot of properties in the county, it just automatically increases some of the value, not the value,
Sure,
much less.
it's appreciating,
the
so
income.
the revenues from taxes go
When you
up.
go from 18 billion to 20 billion, there's $2 billion in addition that goes down. So you don't need to raise your
Right.
your millage rates or whatnot.
Right.
You adjust your budget to what you need, and that's kind of what we did.
I got you.
And so the 352% is by, don't know if default's the right word, but it's the increase of people moving here, buying properties, and property values going up, and a property appraiser receiving, and tax collector's office receiving a lot more.
And so you deploy that capital that's assigned to the mosquito board.
Right.
And I assume that the mosquito board's healthy in reserves. They've got.
That's a good question, as a matter of fact. We get audited every year, and we've had a great audit every year since I've been here. We've made some adjustments in the beginning, back about 5 or 6 years ago. Made some adjustments. We've over the last few years with the new office manager, she has made some changes in the way in software. And we updated our software. We had antiquated systems before when I came on board. So we've changed those. Yeah, we have. You've got your, what do you have? You have a fund balance and your reserves, and so that's your rollover. We've done the rollovers is what we put the money in for the buildings, and I don't know if you have a question about that.
Oh yeah.
You've got your ad valorem, you've got your reserves. We have to have 6 months of reserves. And back when we had the recession, the reserves were depleted because we didn't raise the millage rate because you really couldn't do that,
Right.
Because
Property was depreciating.
depreciating,
Right.
and they're foreclosing, so you weren't going to get anywhere really with any collections as far as that goes, or many collections.
Right.
So you have to have 6 months reserve. So we went through a lot of that, and so we have some pensions of some employees that were formerly here that had been committed previous. Directors many years ago, but anyway, those commitments, and there's just a couple of employees there. And then we have assets, which is, our assets are about $6 million, and that's where our budget with the 4.9 million is really our actual budget for this coming year. It's not 11 million, it's 4.9 million. And then you add the assets and all in there, which is 6 million.
I see. That's
that
how you
gives
get
you
to
11.9.
Sure.
So,
And the assets are the equipment or
buildings.
Buildings and all that, yeah, land, yeah.
And how is the equipment for the mosquito board? Does the mosquito board have what they need for equipment, or is the equipment?
Good question. Good question. Yeah.
Are you spending a lot of maintenance on the equipment?
Well, believe it or not, until about 4 years ago, when we did our first, right after the recession, we did that first increase. That was to start being able to fill our reserves and start replacing some equipment. We had equipment as old as 1996. And I mean, we had excavators that were so old, I don't know if you could tell the color of the rust was the only color that it had.
Right.
So, you know, those are the things that we have to purchase and put into our program, so these guys can maintain ditches, so they can mosquito ditches, and do other work that we need to have done out in the field. But
Let's see. How much do commissioners make a year?
boy, I heard I made a lot. I wish that was true. It's somebody said I made $60,000. If that was true, that'd be great.
Right.
But you know, we have a stipend of $4,800 a year.
Oh, 48,000?
4,800.
Okay, 4,800.
$4,800 a year is all we make, and we get benefits.
Right.
But it's the standard benefits that, you know, any company
Can you
would
put
offer.
a value on those benefits? I mean, I hate to ask you.
No,
you know.
let's say 4,800. So let's just say, let's put 20. Well, you know, I'd say, yeah, you could put 20. It'd be 60,000 total for all three commissioners.
All three commissioners.
And benefits.
Right, in benefits, right.
But
right.
you know, that's the retirement and all that, and you know, health insurance is important to everybody. You know, that's part of the benefits.
Tell me about it.
And you know, that's one of the biggest things that everybody's trying to get these days, and a lot of people you know, need it. And so that's, you know, we obviously get the health benefits also. But that's it. I mean, there's nothing really extravagant about our benefits program.
You're not doing this for the money.
I'm not doing this for the money.
Right.
It's kind of an entry level, and I enjoyed learning about it, and you know, it's being part of the government and the boards that, as you know, that I've sat on before, being a part of the community.
Right. So when people say they don't see the trucks spraying around as much, you know, the trucks haven't been in my neighborhood lately, that sort of rumor mill, what do you say about that? Is that true? Are the trucks running less than they have been?
Yeah, at times they do, because they'll do mosquito counts in those particular areas, and meaning we have some really interesting and neat, cool equipment that we're starting to purchase. As a matter of fact, we've got some guys that are kind of inventing some new equipment with solar.
Interesting.
We're using solar power to power our traps, so we can actually don't have to have electricity at a certain location to count. So we've done that. We're using those particular, and then they're working very well, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's pretty cool. But to answer your question, what was the question again? I get excited about this.
Are trucks spraying less?
Yes. Well, this is the important thing. Hearing from our constituents out in the field, they obviously don't want the mosquitoes. But then a lot of them environmentally conscious, and they want to, you know, whatever we can do to use less is really what the mantra kind of is. So meaning we do our mission, but we try to use as little as possible.
The minimum effective amount.
So you got to be proactive. And to be proactive, we use more larvicide. So by larviciding, you kill the eggs, and you don't have to worry about as many mosquitoes.
Right.
And that seems to be a program in a lot of mosquito districts anyway, but you know what, that's an important one. It works, except for when you have 500-year floods, and you got 15,000 acres of state forest surrounding your community. That creates a little headache for us. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit offline, and you mentioned that because of that 15,000 acres is owned by the state, right?
Right.
Mosquito control can't get into those areas to do any sort of control.
We can't. They restrict us to getting so close to the forest line.
Right.
So, you know, and we obviously environmentally we want to be conscientious, and especially during the daytime. If you spray there in the day, you know, there's potential of bees, butterflies, and all those, and flowers for that matter. So there's a lot of restrictions that the state put on you.
Right.
So we can only do it at certain times. I mean, with an exception when we had Zika.
the Zika, yeah.
Zika was, that was an emergency, so it was kind of like all options are on the table.
Got it. Got it. The counting methods that are being developed, that sort of prompted another question. Can you quantify the effectiveness of mosquito control? In other words, if there were no mosquito control, what would the environment look like compared to, how we receive it after mosquito control?
If there were no mosquito control, you would see a lot more mosquitoes, obviously.
Yeah.
And
do you get quantification with those counting methods, though?
yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yeah. A lot. As a matter of fact, and what I tell everybody is, I got mosquitoes at my house. Call the number, call the office number, and let me tell you, we are very, very responsive. And if we're not, I want to know.
Right. Okay. So you hear
Commissioners
that,
wanna
right?
know. If you don't get any response from our office, you let me know, and I'll be happy to.
So I didn't really understand that was sort of an option if we feel like mosquitoes are.
Call the office.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's a little bit of a tracking method right there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you go on our website too, you can see where we're spraying.
Okay.
It'll like today, if you go on there, you'll probably find out what areas, what zones we're spraying tonight. Mm-hmm. So we don't, it's not like
You spray the same zone every single day.
it's like you mentioned earlier in the beginning about how back in the days when we used to probably ride our bikes behind the mosquito truck, and inhaling DDT or whatever it was, and we don't do that anymore. It's more.
Because they came every night, it seemed like.
Right, it's more precise, or every Thursday.
Right, okay.
You could count on that mosquito truck coming every Thursday. There's no schedule, because, you don't need a schedule. The mosquitoes aren't there all the time, so why spray all the time?
Interesting.
And we've got dollars and cents to look at, too. Chemicals and the products today, they're not cheap.
Right.
They're very expensive. And the other side of that, too, is you've got to rotate these products.
Did they develop a resistance?
They can.
Interesting.
And so this is where our entomologist comes in. She tracks the mosquitoes. We have we have a program to where we go out and we set up not just traps, but areas where we can send we grow our mosquitoes, as a matter of fact. We set them up in traps, and we utilize a particular method of using different chemicals and seeing which ones affects these mosquitoes the most. And that way we can tell if this group of mosquitoes are not affected by this chemical, that means we probably need to change. So you're very scientific sometimes. So we got an entomologist on board that's doing that, and so that's part of our growth. We've got to do that, and with all the diseases, West Nile, we've got West Nile, Triple E, and there's dengue out there. They call that the bone-breaking disease. You got
that just cut off. Okay, so the camera just cut off, but we were right in the middle of talking about how there's several diseases out there that are transmitted via mosquitoes, and we really got to stay on the science
side of it also.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what's important for our community as we continue to grow. More people travel, more people live here, and more chances of those diseases brought in, and mosquitoes spreading them for us.
So what is it about these lawsuits? Something about a drowned raccoon? Was there a drowned raccoon that an employee was fired over?
No, that's not true.
Social media, right?
It's social media. There you go. Boy, we can have some fun with that.
Do you want to elaborate on what happened, or?
Well, it's actually still ongoing, so I can't really elaborate on that. But I can tell you, it's not anything about a raccoon being drowned. Matter of fact,
it sounds kind of ridiculous to even say this.
It's something. Anyway, it's frivolous, as they call that. It's called a frivolous one. Mm-hmm. And no, it's not about a raccoon. Since I've been here, I don't even think we've even. I don't know anything about drowning a raccoon. Okay. That's almost 8 years now. That has never happened.
Interesting.
Not on my watch. Now, what we have done is over the years, well, actually over the last few years, other things that you learn going to these meetings and these district annual meetings and just education meetings. I got certified through the special districts as a commissioner for the special districts. So I'm that too. So anyway, but the point of it is we have what was I talking about?
The drowned raccoon.
Drowned raccoon.
Something you learn about when you go to these
We
meetings.
we had these old cages that these chickens were in. Mm-hmm. And so the raccoons were eating the feed off the chickens.
Right.
So that back then was one of the reasons why they had to get rid of the raccoons, I guess. Well, since then, over the last, 4 or 5 years, we've been building aluminum cages to better protect it's cooler. It's better protection for the chickens, from the bears and the raccoons and wildlife, period.
Right.
And they're set up so nice. I mean, we can use solar power. We got water systems, food systems. I mean, it's like a little chicken condo,
Right.
But what it is, to not have to do it is, I guess, drown raccoons, if that's what we were doing back then, is we have a safer and better
Trap and relocate.
in chicken
Oh,
housing.
a safer chicken coop.
Made out of aluminum, which is more durable.
Gotcha.
It'll last a whole lot longer than these wooden ones with the chicken wire or whatever we used before.
And if the chicken feed aren't on the menu, the raccoons don't
there you go.
come around and get drowned.
So we took care of that issue if it was an issue.
Just off the top of my head, I can't think of why the mosquito board has chickens, but even if it's a hobby, it sounds pretty cool. Why does...
Good question. The reason we have chickens, we have about 16 chicken not coops, but chicken locations with the chickens. There's about 4 to 6 chickens in each one of these little coops. Mm-hmm. And they're located in different locations around, the south end from Miramar Beach. We have some all the way over to Inlet Beach. What that does is we do blood samples.
Oh.
Out of each one of these chickens.
It's like a canary in the...
Bingo.
In the mine.
Exactly. Yeah. So we do blood samples every week, and we take those blood samples and we send them to the lab down in Tampa. And that's how we know, okay, you got 8 cases of EEE. So we remove those chickens, because we have to raise chickens. That's why we have chicken coop on our site, because we always have to have enough chickens to get through the season to be able to replace the ones that do get the disease. Now, you can eat those chickens, even though they have that EEE or West Nile or whatever.
Right.
It's not. We just put them out to pasture.
I got you.
Somebody, takes them and puts them out to pasture.
Does the EEE kill the chickens, or
Nope.
they just have it and get over it or whatever?
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Exactly. Good question.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect them. And like I said, if you wanted to keep them and whatever at a farm, you can.
Right. And if the raccoons are killing our chickens, I mean, we got to do something about the raccoons.
We got to have the raccoons.
I'm not in favor for drowning raccoons, by the way.
And no one really is. We're not. I mean, a funny thing is, it's not funny thing, but interesting thing is it's allowed by the state. That's one of the I think 4 or 5 different things you can do to the wildlife to protect the
Send the raccoons if that need be. Interesting.
But we don't do that.
So these are these lawsuits negligent management? I mean, are there some ongoing lawsuits that are?
No, one we've settled, which I know that's been out. That's that was funny how that not funny. It was interesting how it was done after, but that was.
So the mosquito board's not routed in lawsuits?
No,
okay.
It's just what that is one instigated and the rest jumped on board the train. And today in our society, it seems like it's a litigious society.
I would agree with that.
It seems like if you can sue somebody or sue your employer or sue whatever, anybody for that matter.
It's a strategy.
It's a strategy,
right.
Especially if they're insured. And so what you see today in a lot of companies, and they'll be willing to settle out of court and then go to court,
right?
Because it seems to be a lot more expensive. So that's what the insurance companies will do right off the bat. So that's what happens.
Gotcha.
Now we have a good management team. To answer your question, there, we have a great management team. There's times you have employees that you hire that maybe aren't the best fit for the organization. And sometimes you gotta move on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's
it's the real world.
It's the real world.
Right.
It's just what happens. So that's no hard feelings with anybody, but it's just life. And sometimes they do stupid things, and you got
I hate
Can't
to
have
say
those
I've been
stupid
there.
things.
Okay, so the building has gotten a lot of attention. The new building, it's $8
Yeah.
million. You know, just on the face of it, that does sound like a lot of money for a building, although I know we live in Walton County where everything's higher.
A very good point.
You know, so how do you justify the $8 million building for Mosquito Board?
Well, let me break it down. That seems to be the number one, subject at this point in time. Actually, and I'm kind of spearheading the construction program for the district. Being in real estate, as you know, as you just mentioned, it's not cheap. First of all, what we've done not many years.
Well, let me ask you this: how big is the building?
The building's about 9,000 square feet.
9,000 square
Okay.
feet. How much office? How much warehouse? How much?
It's a multitude of things. It's an administration building, but it also has the insectary.
Okay.
And our entomologist is located in there. We've got all of our technicians located in there, and some room for growth and education.
Okay.
And so with that being said, then you have your offices and a conference room. And actually, currently in our board meeting room, if you haven't been there yet, you'll see that it used to be an old garage. And it's been converted, but you can, with COVID, now you can possibly maybe seat 8 if you're lucky.
Okay.
In there, and then the 3 commissioners spread out.
And how long has the Mosquito Board been in that building?
That was added on to the front building. That front building has been there for 56 years.
So the Mosquito Board has been operating out of its current location for 56 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And the new building is going on the same property?
Going on the same property.
Okay.
With all the flood changes and everything, so we're out of the flood zone. If we keep having floods this kind of rain for every 2 years, it seems like we'll be just constantly moving into trailers while they mitigate the mold and whatnot.
Right.
So, but yeah, 56 years is the oldest building, which is part of our conference room, part of our board meeting room, and then in the back. Yeah, most of our buildings range from 40 to 56 years old. So it's kind of time to get more modernized and be able to operate.
And the county has to go through a bid process for something like that?
Absolutely,
It's a competitive.
So what we did was we had
Contract.
a very sharp commissioner back in the day, Bob Hudson, and I think he was an accountant. Yeah, he was an accountant for Boy Scouts of America. One of the financial guys for them. And back then we started talking about this growth, and we started trying to figure out how we were going to move into, and because we had just repaired our building to our truck garage. And so, that was, we're doing our own repairs just to save money and whatnot because of the recession and all back in the day. So anyway, my point is that we decided that we would just increase the revenue or the millage rate a little to be able to get our new trucks, continue operating with some new equipment finally, and start purchasing that and put some money aside for some new buildings. And the campus, we got about 10 acres there. So we needed to start doing that because we could see that, in due time, we're going to have to move out of those buildings, especially after the flood 5 years ago.
Right.
So we started putting money aside, and if we had any rollover, it goes into the next year, and we put it into that account. There's other reserves that we have in there, as we mentioned before. You have to have the funds for operations for 6 months. All those requirements, the pensions and everything, all that's rolled up in there. Now, this is not an $8 million building for this administration building. Currently, we're using DAG Architects, and we've been working with them. We still got to bid it out, but they put a price per square foot on it, and it's probably within range, but we don't know yet till we get the bids back.
Yeah, I mean, 9,000 square feet. $8 million. That's what, $100. I mean, it's
that's just that's nothing at this point. I mean, that's not nothing, but it's
Right.
It's fairly reasonable. But we got a 3.8 million estimate right now. So for that one building at 9,000 square feet, and that's gonna suffice for growth and for what we need for now, and for the education program. And growth for other employees, because we're going to need more employees. We have Bunker, by the way. If anybody knows where Bunker is, You know, on the other side, Point Washington.
Okay.
You know, on the other side of the intercoastal.
Okay.
That's called bunker.
Got it.
We have that. We have to go over there and spray.
Oh, I see.
So
I see what you mean.
we have to send people over there, and we got a call from one of the landowners over there this past week, and he said, "I got a lot of new homeowners over here. Can you come over and spray and kind of tell us what we need to do and how what you do?"
Right.
So those are the things that we're starting to see.
Right.
And which is important for us to be on top of it and to be able to educate those people.
So did I hear you say that the 9,000 square foot building is only going to cost 3.8 million?
That's correct.
Okay. So what is the other money?
So the other money is what we're saving. We're putting in savings.
Gotcha.
Instead of we could have gone 4 years ago and just financed a compound.
Right.
But we're not going to us, that didn't seem like the right thing to do for our constituents and for the taxpayers of South Walton Mosquito Control District. So what we decided is and upon Bob's recommendation, let's just put money aside and save it until we can start, building these.
So we know exactly what we need to do with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're not going to keep putting money in there. When we got the buildings funded, then obviously it's just operational costs is what we're going to make sure we need. At that point in time, it could be rolled back. Mm-hmm. We don't have to continue saving money. And in our budget, before our budget meetings, we even made the announcement in there to. It's for the future building cost and construction, and that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure the public knew that we were saving for that.
Right.
We don't want to pay interest on on $8 million worth of buildings.
Right.
When we can save our money and pay for them as we go.
So the chemicals that mosquito control uses, I'm sure that they're regulated and they're generally safe for to be around humans. Do you have any concerns? Is there any talk about whether or not the methods or chemicals that the mosquito board uses is unsafe or needs to change in any way?
It's FDA approved. Everything's gone through the environmental process, and we go by the labels that are on those canisters. Mm-hmm. And whatever it says on there is what
you
those
take it
guys
as
do.
it must be what it can be used for.
That's the word right there. That's how we do it. Yeah, that's chemicals are chemicals. We try to be safe when we spray, and if they see somebody at night out on the road, they'll stop spraying until they get past them a certain distance and start spraying again. So we are conscientious of that also.
And you're not just wholesale dumping Roundup into.
No, that's a good question. No, that was something that was brought up about Roundup too. And
well, Roundup has made the news lately about being a harsh, carcinogenic, and of course, Facebook, anybody can say anything that, mosquito control is just, fire spraying
we don't
Roundup through the ditches.
We barely use Roundup. Matter of fact, if we use it, I don't even know, maybe on our compound. Hey, but there's another method that we...
you're shifting to another method.
We're trying another method, depending on just repeatedly doing a torch method. We torch the weeds, not the grass, because we need the grass for the ditches. You need cover.
Erosion control.
It's erosion control.
Right.
So we need that. So we are.
Which Roundup would kill that grass.
Roundup would kill the grass too. So we get very careful about that. But yeah, we're not real big on Roundup, but we have used it. And I'm not going to say we haven't used it, but we have used it. Sure. But it's not. Believe me, it's not out there with a big sprayer going like this, because we need the grass and all to be able to maintain erosion control.
Why are ditches and runoff not fixed? I'm not quite sure what this is referring to, but maybe.
Why are ditches and runoff not fixed? The ditches are they're repaired as a matter of fact before a storm and even after the storm. We survey these ditches, but as a matter of fact, when it rains and we know there's a big rain coming, our guys go and survey the ditches to make sure there's no blockage in the ditches. Now, I've heard some comments about, we have trash in our ditches, or I don't know, washing machines or stuff like that. I have no clue. Nobody gives pictures or shows anything about where it is, and they don't report it to our district office. If you see anything, just call our district office. It's real easy. It's not hard to do.
So if I call the office and I say, hey, over here there's a microwave in the ditch. Someone is going to come get the microwave.
Somebody will go get that microwave.
Okay.
Guarantee you. It's very important. So we got to keep them clean so they'll be able to flow, and water will be able to flow through smoothly. So we don't want them to back up. It doesn't affect, it doesn't help us out at all.
Right,
And
right.
much less the communities in the neighborhoods.
Something that was floating around in my mind when you mentioned chickens. Do y'all ever use bats or other animals to control mosquitoes with?
That's a very good question. At one time, we were going to implement a program with martin houses.
Martins, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, martins eat mosquitoes, but we tried at a couple locations, Helen McCall Park, and we were going to put them at some of the school ball fields to see if that would help out, but it wasn't very effective, unfortunately. We thought that would be a real,
That would be great.
great
right?
way of
Yeah.
using Mother Nature to help eradicate some of these little pesky insects.
Okay, well, my good buddy Josh Zeno, I know you're watching, said bat boxes. Bat boxes are a
boxes?
thing, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we'll try some bat boxes.
Well, that kind of wraps up the questions I had. Do you have anything else you want to say about the mosquito board?
Oh, just it's not an easy job. I don't know. People think that it's real easy, but what I do want to say is that anybody's welcome to come to the meetings, get educated on what we do, and have the entomologists come to any of your meetings and talk about the mosquito programs that we have. If you see anything in the ditches, if you have mosquitoes, call 850-267-2112, and we'll respond as quick as possible. And if you don't have any response, you call me and I'll make sure that you get a response. But
There you go.
Otherwise, you know what? We've got a real good group of people.
Well, it sounds, I'll be honest with you, when I heard mosquito board, I thought that's county fluff. That's fluff in the budget. Honestly, that's really what I thought when I first moved here. Then it became obvious to me that it was an important function of our government. And then
Right.
after sitting here talking to you, it feels like it's not a very easy job. There's a lot of coordination. There's a lot of time, and I'm shocked that it only pays, hey, let's call it $24,000 a year with the benefits.
Right.
It doesn't sound to me like that's enough money to hold someone's attention, other than a person like Tim who's got the brains and time to do it. There's not a lot of us like Tim out there, so I appreciate you doing that with your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I appreciate you coming in and talking to me about this.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to have me come in and talk about it. And I just want to say that, I appreciate all the employees, the hardworking employees. They have families and single mothers, and we have a lot of good people on board. So
Let's keep the good people on board, right?
let's keep the good people on board, and let's appreciate them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Thank you.
let's wrap it with there, Tim. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir.